Welcome to our episode 29 of our podcast, Cultivating a New Generation. In today's episode, we are going to talk about knowing your immune system, turning on your inner power. Without being primed by the news, by all the rumors, the noise outside, that many times what they create is just misinformation, chaos, fear, and of course, depressing our immune systems. We are going to dive deep into knowing how the army that we have inside is working in favor of us and how not to be again um, lied to or scared by the media and by the manipulation that we have seen now of science and how they are creating these biological weapons just to harm us. And also how through that fear, they are just trying to control you to accede or to be oblivious of the damage that um, gene therapy is going to do for you, because the so-called vaccines that they are just releasing, they are not vaccines per se, they are gene therapy, and you don't know what they are going to do. Now that we have the truth, now that we have the evidence that this virus was completely manipulated by humans and created just to damage and to kill people, now we are more aware of the damage that a so-called or labeled vaccine could do to you. So we have to know our own weapons and we have to use our own army in order to stay healthier and in order to improve the way we are living our lives. And just knowing how you are working inside is going to help you so that you don't fall for this kind of manipulation that we have seen in the past almost 2 years. This information is just for you so that you can digest the basics and how you have a whole army that is always protecting you in spite of autoimmune disorders that you may have encountered. Many of them have a tracking history or story that most likely would uncover the real root cause and would probably heal you once and for all. That's why we need to know our immunity. We have been trained to think that we lost our power for so many things, to eat what we were supposed to nurture us, to sleep less because there were some messages of wasting your time and being productive all the time, being in stress, to be in a sedentary lifestyle because it's just more comfortable and you don't really need to exercise that much. Or even worse, to think that exercise and motion is just a tool to change your body, to look like the magazines, to look better, and to fit a stereotype, because it doesn't fit with the standards. Too many times ashamed of your emotions because they can show that you are not in control of your life, to keep being busy and having huge to-do lists that are just going to distract yourself from paying attention to your life and having those reflection moments. And many times you end up just following a wrongful path due to being numb into a career or a job that you were not completely satisfied and probably you were bought into or forced to study or do it. All of those aspects that the outside world is misleading you to choose are exactly a huge part of the incredible amount of many times the diseases of many new infections and sometimes even some virus strains that have been manipulated with political or economical purposes to force an equilibrium between those so-called elite that for me, they are called puppeteers that are selfishly looking for their own benefit and of course, raising their wealth. Nature has its own way. If a virus is a natural virus, it has its own way to balance the equation. And as we have been witnessing more and more with these extreme environment changes in the weather, it all will be restored to a reset point where we have more balance. Nature is going to do its job because we don't seem to understand also that we need to start respecting our planet and our home. Exactly, that is the same that is happening within you. Every time you engage in toxic eating, in sedentary lifestyles, in emotional turmoil, and excess of stress or financial crisis, you most likely, within just a few days, will be experiencing a low point in terms of your health. Probably, if you already are cursing any kind of disease, then the symptoms are very likely to become heightened. Why is your body reacting to those external reckless behavior? This, the immune system role, is going to be able to control that and is going to react to all of the environmental changes. This is one of the pillars of why we become ill, because everything that is around us and everything that we are doing with our actions, behaviors, emotions, and stress, of course, is influencing the way your cells of your immune system are either stronger and healthier and more prepared to fight diseases, or they are just depressed and ready to be infected. So what you should do is starting to change the things. That is the turning point, and that will be more building system in your threshold of immunity. The more you care for your body, the more you care for your actions, your emotion, your stress, the way you are having time to reflect on your life, all of those things are going to help you to start raising the bar of your immunity and healing yourself. So let's start to dismantle and explaining some of the key features of the immune army. Our immune system, first of all, is divided into three broad categories. Innate immunity, this is comprised by three types of barriers. Anatomic, which is comprised by your skin as well as your mucosal lining, the walls of your body access such as mouth, nose, anus, vagina. All of those um, sites are the ones that are anatomically having mucosal lining. Phagocytic is another category of the barrier, and this is a set of cells that work as trash trucks that detect the pathogens or foreign particles and engulf them to release chemical poisons to destroy them. So that's the patrol system, detecting everything that is foreign or strange or infectious and trying to first dissolve it with some chemical substances and then get rid of it. Blood proteins is the other category. They are comprised of cytokines, antibodies, and the complement. That is another huge category of cells that is going to help you to get rid of these pathogens, all of which will start to attack foreign particles, harmful bacteria, and of course, viral infections. Oftentimes, this type of immune system is developed through your inheritance and certain fluids that were exposed to you during your birth. Breast milk, many of your mother's immune substances are transmitted to you by this fluid. If you were born through natural birth, that is another way of acquiring that immunity. When you pass through the vaginal canal, you were also bathed in many of these amazing set of immune substances, as well as being exposed to many bacteria, which allow your microbiota lining and population to be stronger. That's why our immunity is influenced since we are in the womb and since the environment that our mothers and of course our fathers are contributing to this kind of immunity, the kind of life that they lived. The next category or the next big types of barriers is the acquired immunity. This is a set of this defense that is given through your life's interaction with the environment and of course, the exposure that you have had with some type of bacteria, any other pathogen that can be a parasite, a protozoa, and viruses, of course. Additionally, inside of this acquired immunity, it exists an artificial immunity, which is a provoked immunity by real vaccines. Along with this type of immunity, we have a subdivision of it, which encompasses an immune cellular response, which is awakened by a T cell response, which is the one that viruses raise, and our body mounts this response when it is in contact with an antigen of this virus that is new to the body. That can be a protein of the capsid, wrapping or cover of the virus, or the virus itself, as is in the case of an infection. That's what they do with the real vaccines. They use the real proteins, they don't use sequences, and they don't use vectors to deliver these kind of things. These new gene therapy systems that they are using, you don't know what is going to be like in a year or in 2 years, and it can be really disguised to give you or to prompt you to develop any dormant disease that you can have in your genes. That's why we have to be extremely careful of what we put in our bodies. So also, the kind of measures that were taken everywhere in the world created now a weakened society because we were not in contact with the environment, with the bacteria, with other viruses, and we were always sanitizing everything. So that is going to go to create a bubble, and children that are going to be less strong. They are going to be really weak in their system. So we have to learn how to now promote the development of a healthier and stronger immunity so that they can face any kind of challenges. Now that we have seen that these people are able to create a virus just with manipulation and just to direct them to their own purposes. So the other type of immune response generated by your body against bacterial infection and any other pathogen, this is going to be triggered, the T cell response, by the presentation or detection of the antigens, which are small parts of the bacteria or pathogen, and the generation of antibodies, which will detect the antigen of the bacteria or pathogen and will signal another set of cells named complement, which will finish the job for them, as well as recruiting a whole army of immune cells, such as your neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, and natural killer cells that will release chemical weapons against them. This is just like, for example, if there is a robbery in a bank and they put the picture of the person that is suspected to be someone that has done that in the past, when the cameras or when other person detect that, those are the patrol systems in your immune response. Those are the ones that are patrolling and detecting the kind of foreign pathogens. Now that they have detected, they should call a number and they give the signal um, for people or for policemen to come and to help them so that they can have a backup system. That backup system is all of these complement and the other immune cells that are going to be recruited once they know that there is a pathogen inside of you. In both cases, either in the cellular response, that is the T cells, as well as in the humoral response, which is the creation of the antibodies, you will generate a memory of the pathogens which infected your cells. And that memory is the one that is going to protect you against future infections. So that's what happens. Now that you already know who is the foreign and the infectious agent, the dangerous person, now and you have a system that is going to detect, is going to scan the things that it has in terms of a virus, the proteins, the capsid, everything that it has, and is going to signal your system for a possible future infection. That is what happens when you mount the immune response and you have now a protection against the disease. Now, what is going to happen if you don't have that immunity develop? You are going to be weakened and you are going to be an easy prey for any kind of disease, which is what they did with the measures and with all of the priming of the media, the news, and the, of course, in many times manipulation and exaggeration of the numbers that we saw in the news. What is happening now if we could trust in the old type of vaccines, the artificial immunity and the microbiota influence? How are they going to work in this scenario? The artificial immunity has been widely spread by the use of vaccines. In spite of raising discrepancy against the use of them or not, in the past, they used to work and they used to do them with just a weakened virus or just a small portion of the virus so that your body could detect the particles and mount the immune response. That is completely uh, normal and that is completely healthy, and they need just a vehicle, which is a saline solution, or now more recently they have used some kind of mixture of metals with this type of solution, but the quantity that they used to uh, put in these kind of vaccines wasn't harmful in the past. Right now we can trust in those vaccines, and in spite of those things that they are promoting, we know that this is not a real vaccine. Vaccines are developed to mainly prevent the symptoms of the disease, and in some cases, it also can help you to reduce the symptoms of the disease if you already acquire it. But you were not supposed to be spreading the virus if you really had a good vaccine. So that's what happens when they are just manipulating the information. There are many types of vaccines, but the principle of them remains the same. They isolate part of the virus protein, as I mentioned. Usually is the grabbing of the virus, as they use one, two, or more proteins to develop a strong immunity towards them. And they need to use the adjuvant, the liquid, which is usually a metal-derived chemical mixture that will also raise your immunity against the pathogenic viruses. Another type of vaccine are the ones where they use a dead virus and they just allow your body to also detect the foreign pathogen, which is not harmful anymore, and raise an immune response. And the last type are the ones with an attenuated virus, which is the virus but without the viral infectivity and aggressiveness of the original version. So they make a lot of passages through different type of uh, cells, and they just make the virus so weak that it cannot infect you, and it is safe to put that in your system, such as the vaccines of measles and all of these kind of vaccines. They sort of disable the virus in order to protect you from the infection. Now, there is a type of immunity that has been discovered with the advent of all the microbiome science and knowledge. And currently, there is evidence that if you have a strong microbiota, which is raised by and strengthened by what you eat, by your sleep, and by your exercise patterns, then you will be able to have a strong bacterial population that will really protect you against viral pathogens and will allow you to release many of these immune substances and cascades that are going to help you to protect your body. This is pretty much the main component of your immune system. And of course, this is just a very general, summarized overall picture of it, because it is one of the most complex networks that we have internally and that is protecting us from any kind of threat. Nowadays, however, we are also experiencing in a bigger scale a broad spectrum of autoimmune diseases, which they are mainly produced by an excessive and dysfunctional reaction to your own cells, not recognizing them as your own and kind of identifying them as a threat. These kind of diseases nowadays have been studied from an emotional component view, which, in my humble opinion, sounds more congruent in spite of having a genetic component, of course, that has certain influence. Using the epigenetic science, we are now able to really see the effect of every past behavior that we have had, even an emotional trigger that we had in our past, or that our parents, grandparents, and at least 4 generations more had before, and we have been accumulating. So it is not a surprise that now, after 5 or 6 generations, we are having more autoimmune diseases. There is a lot of emotional trauma inside of many people. This is just a consequence of many epigenetic marks that have been building up through generations and years that have passed, sort of dormant or undetected, but ready to be activated by the environment and by any triggering systems, usually by a strong emotional, even physical trauma, or a really painful experience. That's why we are now able and can start to be more responsible with our own set of inner tools, thoughts, emotions, and behaviors to start becoming healthier, to stop the course of the disease, to regain balance and homeostasis inside of our bodies, and moreover, to clean all of those epigenetic marks that we have been accumulating from many generations. Those are the good news. You can reverse the damage that you inherited from your parents and from other generations, and you can clean your system if you really care for your whole body and your integral health. In order to achieve that, let's take some practical tips and behaviors that we all can start to embrace in our everyday life, and that will greatly boost our immune defense system to be prepared in case you are encountered with any type of bacterial or viral infection. Number one, start being a lot more mindful of the way you eat. As I am sure that you have heard many times, your food is your medicine. Therefore, start including real and natural food instead of the quick to go food, the processed food, the garbage food. Green, start installing green and colorful vegetables that will raise your innate immunity by all the antioxidants, minerals, and vitamins that are inside of them. And of course, fruits that have a high content of antioxidant abilities, whether you eat meat or not. Protein ingestion is very important, is vital for the development of your immune system, as many of the actors of the immune system are proteins. And of course, the consumption of more mono and polyunsaturated fats, which will enable you to boost and enrich your microbiota, as well as the fact that you will need a strong profile of them to fight infections. Number two, exercise, moving your body, even if it's softer kind of impact, such as walking or yoga, that will enhance your immunity as well as lowering the inflammation and the toxins in your body. It is remodeling your immune system. Start doing just little by little some type of exercise, at least 30 minutes of active exercise, 3 to 4 times per week. That's the practical tip that you can start implementing as soon as tomorrow. Stress and sleep, that is the number 3. The way you care for your mental peace and allow yourself to include a meditative or reflective practice will enable you to lower the cortisol and other danger-like hormones and will allow your immune system to be prepared for a real threat instead of depressing it with false alarms. Therefore, look for 5 to 10 minutes twice in your day to relax, either with nature sounds, with silence, journaling, or a short meditation. Aim to sleep better. It is proven by several research that we should have from 6 to 9 hours of sleep. This will depend, of course, of your habits and your chronotype. Those are your internal clocks. But this simple activity, that is sleep, will repair all your body and will renew many of your proteins of your immune system and raise the threshold of it. Number 4, a more emotional resilience. In times when we face with bigger issues than just the traffic or a toxic boss or some pointless discussion in our lives, we become more aware that we own the power of our emotions, and we spoke about that in past episodes. Therefore, stop being triggered by the media, by panic, and by news that start going inside your emotions. Write down the things that are circling or just giving turns in your mind and predisposing you to ruminate or worry, and start embedding positive affirmations and happy activities in your life that boost your mood in order to also help your immune system. Number 5, supplements and natural aids. We all, depending of course of our culture and patterns, know certain natural remedies, which now many of them have proven to be effective. Aim for your complex B vitamins, which are essential to all the metabolic functions and pathways, and you will benefit the production of high quality proteins. They are also a good baseline source for a healthy microbiota. Consume also minerals such as magnesium, copper, zinc, manganese, selenium, and calcium, which are mainly the ones involved in your metabolic and neural functions. Include turmeric, aloe vera, echinacea, oregano, sage, garlic, ginger, ginseng, etc. There are many other herbs and many other herbal systems that you can start using. so that you can boost your immune system. All of these tips, I believe, they are kind of simple and they can really make a difference in terms of owning your path, in terms of the immune response that you want to almost any kind of challenge that you might encounter. And we have seen that this response several times with the placebo effect that has to be analyzed in all the clinical trials for every kind of vaccine or new drug. So your mind is the most powerful tool in addition to all of these tips. Your mindset, protect your senses of trash information. And of course, you will need to include a lot of water so that you can move everything in your system, and being more aware of the things, being more critical of the things that you are watching, that you are hearing, and not just stressing and being fearful for any kind of news that we might have in the future. So start strengthening your own inner power, assuming that you can generate a different kind of health. It's not about taking pills or having vaccines and not changing anything and just trying to live as you used to, because this was a paradigm also and a lesson to start changing more our awareness and consciousness of the things that we are doing in our lives. Whether you are coursing with any kind of illness or not, you are able to change your thoughts toward your health. You are able to direct your intentions toward mounting or lowering, in case of an autoimmune disease, your immunity. And above all, you are responsible for your future and long-term health. It's not just about surviving. So I wish you a really powerful journey, understanding the immunity, understanding that you have a beautiful and very strong army inside of you, and knowing that you can remodel it and making it stronger. I wish you a powerful journey, a strong awakening to start knowing that army to help you and become really strong and willing to protect your life. Thank you very much for your attention, and we will listen to each other in our next episode. Bye.